When President Barack Obama presented Bill Russell with the Presidential Medal of Freedom, these were his remarks. When someone asked Bill Russell, "Are you a basketball player?" "No, that's what I do. That's not what I am. I'm a man who plays basketball." Bill Russell, the man, is a man who stood up for the rights and dignity of all men. He marched with King, stood by Ali. When the restaurant refused to serve the Black Celtics, he refused to play in the game. He endured insults and vandalism, but made sure he focused on making the teammates he loved better players, and made possible the success of many who would follow. And I hope one day, in the streets of Boston, children will look up at a statue built not only for Bill Russell, the player, but Bill Russell, the man. Welcome to Productive Discourse. Productive Discourse is a conversation where we talk about the positive activities that take place within our communities. In other words, we're constantly searching for a shining needle of common ground in that haystack of fear. Today, we're continuing our conversation about the great athletes that got their starts in the playgrounds and sandlots of Oakland, California. We're talking about athletes who exhibited what I call the 3 E's: energy, enthusiasm, and excellence into their passion, where many of them turned pro and won championships. Some were elected to their sports halls of fame, and a great many came back and served their communities. Today, we're talking about the McClymonds High warrior, Bill Russell, who became the greatest champion who ever lived. Now, I greatly enjoy doing these programs. I enjoy interviewing people, and sometimes I can't interview the person, but what I can do is do a little bit of research. And through books, through articles, and through information that's available, I put together this presentation on Bill Russell. I'm going to cite my sources. I'm going to do that for 2 reasons. The first reason is it's always good to cite your sources and give people credit who contributed great information. But the second reason is Bill Russell is a compelling figure. And in this short presentation, we'll go through a lot of highlights of Bill Russell's accomplishments and what he contributed to our society. But there's a lot more out there. And I hope after listening to this, you'll look at some of the books, look at some of the links, and you'll find out more about Bill Russell. Now, the first source I'm going to cite is a book called Crossover: A Brief History of Basketball and Race, from James Naismith to LeBron James, by Doug Merlino. Now, Bill Russell was born in Monroe, Louisiana in 1934. It was a segregated South. Life was difficult for African Americans. And Russell's father, Mr. Russell, found out there were jobs available in the shipyards of Oakland, California. And in 1943, he moved the family from Louisiana to Oakland. What he found was Oakland was a lot different than Louisiana, but it was still no paradise. As African American families were moving into West Oakland near the shipyards, white families were moving out, creating Oakland's own style of segregation. Mr. Russell did find a job in the shipyards, but after World War II, he lost his job. The economy went down, there was economic stagnation, and there were a lot of racial tensions. And the Russell family fell into poverty. To add to all the challenges, when Bill Russell was 12 years old, his mother had a short illness and passed away. They were very close. This devastated Bill. He withdrew into himself, became painfully shy, and just spent hours and hours reading in the Oakland Public Library. When he went to McClymonds High School, he was 5'10". By the time his senior year started, he was 6'5". Very good in track and field, very awkward in basketball. There's a misconception that everybody who's tall is good at basketball. Well, there's more to it than that. There's footwork, there's getting around the court. And Bill Russell was awkward. In fact, he got cut his junior year from the junior varsity team. But there was a coach named George Powles, who saw some potential in Bill Russell, and he actually kept him on the varsity. But he was a 16th player on a 15-player team. Powell said Russell's skills developed late into his senior year, and they developed well enough to where he got a scholarship to the University of San Francisco to play basketball, and then he also ran track, or was involved with track and field. He was also on the track and field team. He never forgot George Powles. According to Home Field Advantage, Oakland, California, the city that changed the face of sports, by Paul Brecky Miser, Russell said, George was the only person on the planet who thought I was going to be good. And as he built his confidence, his goals grew. And when Coach Powell asked Russell what he was going to do after graduation, Russell told him, I want to become the first All-American basketball player from McClymonds High. Now, a side note, in that senior year, the leading scorer for the McClymonds High Warriors was future Baseball Hall of Famer and Russell's classmate, who also was awarded a Presidential Medal of Freedom, Frank Robinson. Now, Russell told NBA.com that the key to all my success was the friendships of my teammates. We looked out for each other, and that's what you have to do in school. Look out for each other, because no one on the outside is going to look out for you. No matter where he was, no matter what Bill Russell accomplished, he always had an eye out for what was happening at McClymonds. And in 2008, the Warriors won the state championship. And Bill Russell came out to California, came out to Oakland, and visited the team. He spoke to the team, and according to East Bay Times, Russell told the players, I was really lucky when I was at McClymonds, because not only did we have some really great athletes, we had good, intelligent people. I feel just as honored meeting you guys because of the way you conduct yourselves and because we come from the same place. Russell's jersey, number 15, is hung proudly at the Wall of Fame in the McClymonds gym. Now, after McClymonds High was the University of San Francisco, and Bill Russell collaborated with Coach Phil Wolpert to win 55 consecutive games. Back-to-back, 2 NCAA championships. And he not only made good on his goal to become an All-American, he did it back-to-back, 2 years in a row. He also was very successful with track and field, particularly the high jump. According to Track and Field News, he was 7th in the world as a high jumper. This despite not competing in the Olympic high jump competition. He won the high jump titles at the Central California AAU meet, the Pacific AAU meet, and the West Coast relays with a 6-foot, 9.25-inch jump that tied Charlie Dumas, who would later in the year win the gold medal at the Melbourne Olympics. Dumas did it with a 7-foot jump. He was the first person to ever jump 7 feet on the high jump. Now, another side note, in that era, high jumpers did not use the Fosbury flop technique that would come later. And when that technique was developed, it changed everything. And the record books ended up being completely different. So it was a different era, but Bill Russell was one of the best in the world at the high jump. He also ran the 440, and he did a time of 49.6 seconds. Then it's on to the Olympics. And this was very important. Bill Russell wanted to be part of the Olympics. Gerald Tucker was a basketball coach, and Russell said he delayed turning pro so he could compete in the Olympics. If I hadn't made the Olympic basketball team, I was going to participate in the high jump. I was ranked 2nd in the country in the high jump, so either way, I was going to Melbourne. I wanted to be part of the Olympic experience. And with that experience came the gold medal. After the Olympics, he became part of the Boston Celtics, where he and Coach Red Auerbach created a dynasty. I'm going to cite another source now, and it's the author is Akshay Manwani. And he wrote an article called Treat Men with Respect: 5 Ways in Which Legendary Coach Red Auerbach Impacted Bill Russell's Life. And it's sportskeeda.com. A reporter asked Red Auerbach, how do you handle Bill Russell? You know, some people thought Bill Russell was a pretty complicated person and hard to coach. How do you handle Bill Russell? Auerbach's response was, you handle mules. You don't handle men. You treat men with respect. This statement by Auerbach left a definite impression of Bill Russell, who decided from there that it was more important to understand people than to be understood. Bill Russell's NBA career was off the charts. 1957 and 1969, 11 NBA championships, 9 as a player, and then 2 more after the 1966 season when he was a player coach. He left Boston in 1969, and he went on to coach 4 years with the Seattle Supersonics and 1 year with the Sacramento Kings. The greatest champion who ever lived. Now, Bill Russell had a unique ability to stand up for himself with a touch of humility. And he showed that in 2014 when LeBron James gave what he thought, or what his opinion was, what the Mount Rushmore of basketball would be. And LeBron James chose Michael Jordan, Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, and Oscar Robertson. Word got out, Bill Russell had a response, and he went to Twitter. Hey, thank you for leaving me off your Mount Rushmore. I'm glad you did, Basketball is a team game. It's not for individual honors. I won back-to-back state championships in high school, back-to-back NCAA championships in college. And I won an NBA championship my first year in the league and an NBA championship in my last year, and 9 in between. That, Mr. James, is etched in stone. Now, that is from an article by Kyle Newport in Bleacher Report, February 2014. Russell's integrity is legendary. In 1975, he was inducted into the Naismith Memorial Hall of Fame. He only accepted the honor a few years ago because he believed there were more deserving players that should have been enshrined before him. He was talking about people like Eric Lloyd, Chuck Cooper, and Sweetwater Clifton. Off the court, there were the civil rights struggles of the 1960s. Bill Russell attended Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech. He was also part of a meeting in 1967. According to the undefeated.com, it was part of the Cleveland Summit that Hall of Fame running back Jim Brown put together a gathering of top African-American athletes who showed support for boxer Muhammad Ali's refusal to fight in Vietnam. Now, after that meeting, Russell wrote an article in Sports Illustrated. In the article he said, "I envied Ali. He has something I've never been able to attain, and something very few people I know possess. He has an absolute and sincere faith. I'm not worried about Muhammad Ali. He's better equipped than anyone I know to withstand the trials in store for him. What I'm worried about is the rest of us." Now, in June of 1967, I wasn't quite 10 years old. But as someone who came of age in the 1970s and watched how Muhammad Ali conducted himself and understood that he was bigger than life, we would, no matter what we were doing on a given day, if Muhammad Ali was going to be on Wide World of Sports or on any other program or any other broadcast, we would stop everything to watch. And Bill Russell was 100% correct in the grace, dignity, and the humor that Muhammad Ali used through the 1970s. It was absolutely amazing. At the age of 87, Bill Russell is still conducting himself in a way worthy of a man who received a Presidential Medal of Freedom. And I'm humbled talking about him because there's so much I can learn from him. Is there something you can learn from him? Whether it's showing up at McClymonds High, an awkward basketball player, and becoming a champion, or combining humility with the ability to stand up for yourself, or the integrity. There's just so much we can learn from Bill Russell. He's a great teammate. And while there's no I in team, there's an I in innovation, There is an I in inspiration, and there is an I in integrity. I appreciate you listening and watching today. I enjoy so much talking about these great human beings who got their start on the playgrounds and sandlots of Oakland, California. If you'd like to know more about what we do, please go to the website, productivediscourse.home.blog. It gives great information about our activities and how you can contact me if you'd like me to speak at your service club, community organization, your religious group, or your Toastmasters club. Now, we'll be back again next week, and next week we're going to talk about a Skyline High Titan who made history with the San Francisco Giants, Brian Johnson. And he'll also tell you about the great things he's doing right now after his baseball career. So tune in next week, but in the meantime, please like, share, comment, subscribe, so this message will go far and wide, and we'll find that shiny needle of common ground in that haystack of fear.